Hey, ISHTUers. On today's episode, we discuss how your network is your net worth. Don't listen to this episode. Don't water your networking garden if you have too much money. But if you don't, keep listening and don't forget to like and subscribe. It Shouldn't Happen to Us podcast on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Straight from Miami, this is It Shouldn't Happen to Us. After 30 plus years of selling and training sales teams, we still screw it up sometimes. And this is where we tell you all about it because it shouldn't happen to us.
Hey, Sophia, nice to see you.
Carlos, what's going on?
What's going on? Busy. Hey, I closed a deal last night. I haven't told you about that yet. I closed the deal last night.
What?
Keep your eye on your.
You're holding out. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
And what about you? How did it go with that meeting today?
Great. We have a solid next step in the calendar with an agenda. Then that should be the meeting where we bring it over the line.
You have an agreement to agree.
An agreement to agree. Red pill, blue pill. Final verdict. Yes or no? No go. No go.
Yours will be a bigger deal. Mine was like a medium-sized deal. It was very nice. It was a referral. How did you get yours? I can't remember.
Came from a networking group that I've been in for 2 years now.
I remember now. Do you know? And when you think about mine was a referral for sure. But that's kind of out your network as well. I was speaking to. Jose, you remember Jose from class, Angel's cousin, and we were talking. I had dinner with him last night before I closed my deal. Ridiculous. Went to dinner, came home, did a Zoom, closed the deal.
Wow.
But is it ambition or is it insanity? You decide. But or is it just plain simple sad that you've not got a life, Carlos? It could be that. But I was talking to Jose about this. People don't use their networks well enough, I don't think. Not intelligently, right? There's so much value. What's that old adage? Your network is your net worth. I was talking to Jose about that. And look at that. You've got an agreement to agree on a reasonable sized deal. I mean, we don't know yet until it's crossed the line. And of course, to our listeners and our viewers, you never, until you've got it, you got nothing, right? We know that, but it's still pretty cool.
And make sure the check doesn't bounce either. In Miami, there's a lot of bouncing of checks. Make sure that the check it clears, the credit card clears. Yeah, it's so true. It reminds me, Carlos, of my mom. Mom, if you're listening to this, hi. My mom used to say, Sophia. This is probably not good parenting, but she would say, Sophia, it's not about the grades you make. It's about the hands you shake.
Ooh, I didn't know where that was going to go. Knowing your mum, that could have gone in a very unusual direction.
Yes,
quickly.
It could have.
But okay, it is. It's
not a great message, but but there's some good. Take what you like and leave the rest.
Well, you know what? But it's right. And I was talking to a client this morning. My standard Tuesday morning call that I have a session that I have with one of my clients, and I was talking to them about just the philosophy of calling the people that you know. Now, this sounds very interesting. It's very interesting. And I said to my client, if any of my clients are listening from this morning, you know who you are because we were talking about it. And I asked this question of them. Why is it that as sales trainers, we ask our clients to do lots of activities that are outside their comfort zone, right? Because if it was inside their comfort zone, they wouldn't need us around.
Right.
So they need us around because we're asking them to, analyze personality types and adjust their talk tracks to accommodate. We ask them to be, tough when their instincts are to be weak. We ask them to structure conversations that create decisions and a whole host of stuff. And, we ask them to make cold calls. What a great example, making a cold call. But in my experience, and you tell me if you and your clients are the same, but in my experience, of all the difficult things we ask people to do, one of the things that gets resisted the most, and I can't figure out why, is we tell our clients, pick up the phone Call your buddies and say hello. Like, it sounds so easy. Just say hello, find out how they are, do it with regularity, do it with a system, and don't go for the throat and try and get a deal. Just call the people that you know that are either customers, ex-customers, new customers, prospects, people in the market, centers of influence. Call them up and say hello. Just hello. How's it going? Was thinking about you. Be a human. And of all the things we ask our clients to do, that is resisted. That must be in the top 3 or 4 things that they resist, that they give excuses for, which is crazy. To me, it's the easiest thing we ask them to do. And it's worth a fortune. Why? Why is it that that they find it difficult? Why is it?
I can think of a few different reasons, Carlos, but so you're saying just call them to say hello, not to ask, hey, have you met anyone in the last 30 days that would value a conversation?
100%. You do not call, just have you got any business for me? It's a WhatsApp call. It's what's going on? Miss you lots, love you lots like jelly tots. It's just that call.
Maybe they don't see it as pay time activity. Maybe they think, but maybe that's the point. Maybe you don't do it during work hours. Maybe you do it on your drive time. Maybe you do it on your Saturday. Just you're saying have a tight network of buddies that you reach out to with regularity. And how does that
need to be that tight? Doesn't need to be that tight.
Nope.
So one of the most successful clients that I have is I work with for our viewers and listeners. I work with one of the biggest super yacht brokers in the world, and one of the guys who's in that team is a very successful guy. Joe, if you're listening, nice to see you. Nice.
Ahoy! Salute!
Ahoy! What a great for him. Absolutely, ahoy there.
Ahoy!
Joe. Joe's a master. And Joe just sits by his pool all day. I mean, he lives in South Florida. If you're listening here, if you're listening in from Vladivostok, apologies, but in New York, in Miami, you can sit by your pool and do some prospecting. Joe just spends 3 or 4 hours a day calling his buddies, calling people that he's ever met, talked to, and they're on some kind of rotation. And he isn't calling them, hey, do you need a yacht broker? Do you need someone to sell you? No. Hey, I was thinking about you.
Your world.
Where have you been? Have you been anywhere cool? Tell me about last time you were on your yacht. And 4 or 5 times, a year, or maybe more, probably more, 6 or 7 times a year, somebody he calls says, I was glad you called. We really need to. I think I need to trade up or trade down or sell this yacht or buy this yacht or whatever. I mean, who knows what a crazy world these guys move in, right? I'm glad you called. I've got $100 million burning a hole in my pocket. Let's go and buy a boat, right? I mean, that's the kind of crazy world these guys move in. But enough to make Joe very comfortable. Very comfortable. And I tell you what, that's part of his model. His model is pick up the phone and talk to cool people about cool stuff. Not run at them like they're a prospect or a client or who do you know and I'm starving to death. No. How you doing, buddy, is what the call is. I do that, perhaps. I don't do it enough.
God, I'm going to be honest, Carlos. I do a lot of networking events, but I don't think I do that at all, really. I mean, on the weekends I might, but God, I mean, you're so right. There's people that actually, off the top of my head, there's people that I'm thinking of, how are they doing now? Ex-coworkers. People I used to be in networking groups with, ex-clients. I mean, there's tons of people that I haven't reached out to in a really long time. I actually feel kind of bad about it. So
here's a tool. Here's a technique, folks. Here's a tool, here's a technique. You ready?
Please.
You ready?
Yes. Ready.
So Sunday, because here's the problem. We're all too busy. Just like I'm too busy to go to the gym. For exactly the same reasons, I'm too busy to make these calls, right? I'm never too busy to go and get the chocolate peanuts out of the cupboard, but too busy to make these calls. So what do? You've got to Odysseus trap it, right? You've got to create an Odysseus trap for yourself. And what I do is on a Sunday, I decide who are the 15 to 25 people I'm going to call this week. and I put them on a note in my Apple Notes in my phone, so that it's a one-touch call, just a one-touch. Now, ideally, Sophia, you'll teach me how to do this in HubSpot, but at the moment, I'm just doing it. I should be doing it in HubSpot. I know that shouldn't happen to us. Does. It's my old habit. I just every day, just click a few of them when I'm driving from here to there, doing whatever. One-touch call, frictionless. You know, if you read The Power of Habit, you've read The Power of Habit, right?
I haven't read The Power of Habit.
Pretty good, James Clear. But one of the things you do when you're establishing a new habit is you make it frictionless. It's friction that gets in your way. So that is why sat right in front of my desk here is my Peloton. There's no friction between me and my Peloton. Now, that doesn't mean I get on it very often, but I get on it a little bit more often than if it was in a different room. So the trick is, or the key is, just make a deal with yourself on Sunday. Who are the 15 to 25 people that you got to call this week? Just make a call. How are you? How are you? Was thinking about you. It's amazing what comes from those calls. Now, so I was discussing this at dinner last night, and we were talking about a guy who does luxury real estate, who makes, who sells a lot, like a crazy amount. A client of ours, like bonkers volume in luxury real estate. I mean, if you're going to be a luxury real estate agent, you really should be working in South Florida or like LA or New York. They're the major markets, right? So it does very well. But the challenge I got was, but he's got a great network. He's got a great network. Well, a great network doesn't just happen. You've got to be intentional about a great network. So, and I know, and here's what's surprising about for you, I know you have been intentional about your network. You've got a network, Sophie.
But you know what? I think after COVID, I think I've gotten a little out of touch, Carlos, and I'm so happy that we're having this conversation live in front of a live studio audience.
Live.
Clap button. Audience, fake canned laughter. Because I think I've gotten out of touch. There's tons of people that I'm gonna implement this right away, because I know there's people that, hey, I actually sincerely want to know how they're doing. And I imagine that frequency, right place, right time, you never know who they just had dinner with or just went to the theater with, or, it's just, and also just coming from a human place of having a good network, a good tribe of people you can lean on. And
there's a quote from, I can't remember, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's from Mark Andreas from the VC firm, the biggest VC firm in Silicon Valley, Andreas and Horowitz. And Mark Andreas says, when you decide, when you follow a strategy with passion and ambition, the universe will bend. And I think that's where you've heard that expression, bending the universe. I think it was in Naval Ravikant's book, and it was this whole idea about leaving a dent in the universe. This is becoming very popular in Silicon Valley these days. But it came from this quote, which was, if you follow it like a strategy, if you make a decision about what the future is going to look like and you follow that strategy with like passion and ambition, the universe just conspires to make it happen. So, and it's crazy, and it's a bit woo-woo, and I know that we've just lost about 500 subscribers because, like,
we got too granola, too much salt in the corners, sage, and
Carlos, someone saged Carlos, but it's true, and it isn't just him. You go to Napoleon quotes, for crying out loud. That guy was pretty, was pretty practical. But he says that if you follow that strategy with passion and ambition and put a lot of energy behind it, the universe conspires to make it like valuable. It'll yield value from it. And I'm telling you now, as sure as eggs is eggs. Now that's a British expression. I don't know if that can eggs is eggs. As sure as
every
eggs
time
is
you
eggs.
say that, I stay stuck there like eggs is eggs.
Yeah, eggs is what else would eggs be? As sure as eggs is eggs.
As sure as the eggs is eggs.
You make that decision today. You know what? I'm going to make those calls on some kind of daily basis, and I'm going to put passion behind it. Now, passion doesn't mean, hey, what deal have you got? Passion means, how the hell are you? Miss you, man. Miss you.
Well,
Do you
okay,
do
so
that?
it's so interesting. Obviously, every time that we have a conversation, I go into the third thought, which for those of you listeners, ISHTUers listening, what does it mean to third thought? Well, think about when you go on a Wikipedia page to search one thing, and next thing you know, you go onto another link and another link, and before you know it, you're very far away from the initial search. So I've got a couple third thoughts cooking up here. It's kind of like when the opportunity does arise, you want to have familiarity, right? Human beings, we like familiarity. So if we are ready for a product or service, or we know someone who needs a product or service, who's the first thing you're going to think of is someone who cares about you and someone that you heard of most recently, right?
What did Maya
And then
Angelou say? People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
yes.
So just those calls. Hey, it's always a good day for a Maya Angelou quote, right? Just those calls of, hey, how are you, man? And it's very interesting. So I was, as I said to you earlier, I was at a client's this morning, my normal Tuesday morning session. And I was talking about why the hell is this a difficult call for you guys to do? So we've instituted a rotation in this client of every client gets a call like 4 times a year. And everyone's got a book of business and they're making those calls and they're very uncomfortable. And by the way, they ain't doing them well. They're saying, hey, doing it badly, it sounds like this. Oh, hi, Sophia. It's Carlos here. Just wondered if there's anything you need me to be working on for you. Horrible. Like, wait a minute.
No.
Did we catch that?
Exactly.
Catch that?
Yeah.
Right. Wah, 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 wah. Doing it properly is, hey, Sophia, you popped up on my desk this morning, had to reach out and call you, wanted to make sure you're cool, everything going well for you. Is there anything that, is there any, this in particular is they're a private aviation broker. And the line for them is once they get a conversation going is there any important trips that we need to be thinking about? That's it. But you don't get there, like you don't jump into that. The main purpose of the call is, hey, how are you doing? And if you go to Joe, Ahoy Joe, if you go to Joe's model, he doesn't even mention that. There's no mention of business until someone says, I'm glad you called. Glad you called today. So I was talking last night at dinner and I said, you've got to, if you've not got a great network, then go out and get a great network. What are the places? I mean, you're the master of this, Soph. Where are the places you go out and make that network? I mean, there's a personal network and there's your professional network. Where do you go and build your professional network?
Networking groups.
Now
mastermind
give
groups.
Give our listeners and our viewers a bit of guidance as to which are the good networking groups. Not necessarily name them, but how do I know what's a bad networking group? There are some terrible ones, right?
Well, if you're in a room where everyone's there to sell something, then that's probably not a great room. I mean, you got to ask yourself who are the people you want to be rubbing elbows with? Who are those individuals?
And there's usually an investment that goes along in those good groups. Sometimes that's a time investment.
Those free
Sometimes
events.
that's a dollar investment.
Yes. If it's a free happy hour, not that you won't meet some cool cats in there, but are those really, if you're going to nurture your network and your network is going to become your net worth, are they going to be hanging out at an after work happy hour at a WeWork or something? Probably not.
What do we always say? If you want $10 clients, go to $10 events, right? Mm-hmm. If you want proper clients, you go to proper events.
Yeah. Volunteer work, foundations, that kind of thing, galas, that's what's up. In my opinion, foundation galas, that's where you can meet some cool cats. Cats.
And you know what? I've done these in the past, and I think you can so you get the gala event. In fact, I've just been reminded when Carolina, my wife, watches this, she's going to go, wait a minute, because we went to a gala event about just before COVID. I didn't bring the right energy to it. Because you can bring the wrong energy to it, right? I brought the kind of energy which was like, hey, let's just eat and get out of here.
Yeah, arrive late, leave early. No, I arrive early.
Energy. You're like, who's amazing that I'm going to meet in here? right?
Well, if we're talking about actually networking, not only making phone calls, you got to put the work in networking. So you got to go in there with a goal. Don't go in there improvising, shooting off the hip. You got to go in there with a goal. I like to have 5 meaningful conversations, and I like to leave with 3 virtual coffees on my calendar and their calendar, or in-person coffees.
It sounds almost like a system, Sophia.
Sounds almost like a system. But I want to go back to, why do you think, really quick, why do you think people don't do it? Because I think, does it have to do with introversion versus extroversion? Is it that people perceive that it's, when it comes to making calls to people in your network, why do you think people don't do it? Do you think it's just that they don't see the value in it because they figure, oh, if I can't, if it's not a prospecting behavior or prospecting activity, it doesn't have value? I mean, what do you think, Carlos?
Well, I'll give you an impish answer, which isn't the real answer. My impish answer is because people don't like money. Right? That's my impish answer.
That's exactly
I'm being impish. The real answer, I believe, is this: that they believe this is a selling activity, and as uncomfortable as it is pointing a selling activity at someone they don't know, it's even more uncomfortable pointing a selling activity, a self-serving selling activity, at someone they do know. That's what I believe it is. It is, they haven't yet figured out ethical selling. They haven't yet figured out this ethical selling model, that there's nothing, there's no demon in profit. There's no, it's not an enemy of humanity to go out and build your book of business. That isn't, and the reference point I always use is the best sales call I get in the year is the sales call I get from my kid's dentist. My kid's dentist rings me twice a year, say, hey, the kids haven't been to the dentist. Now, that's a sales call. There's no doubt about it. That's a sales call. Am I upset that I'm getting a sales call? Absolutely not. If I didn't get that call, my kids wouldn't have any teeth. I need that sales call. I need that support. There is nothing self-serving, even though I'm sure the dentist is making the call with a self-serving motive. I need that. That's important to me. And so I think you've just got to get over yourself and say, you know what? Just going to call people I know and find out how they are. How can that be? How can that be an evil pursuit? How can that not be? It is only an evil pursuit if your motives are less than generous. It's a generous pursuit. How are you? Let's chat. Make it 3 to 5 of those a day, and I promise you, that's the way you water your garden. You first of all, you got to plant the seeds, which is going to the networking events, meeting people. That's the meeting people part of the puzzle. You meet people, you put them name in your virtual Rolodex. Ideally, someone like Sophia shows you how to put them in HubSpot or in your CRM of choice, and then regularly they just pop up on your tasks to do. You give them a call. How are you? It's a love you lots, man. Miss your call. And if done well, they will absolutely turn into business. Absolutely. There is no doubt. There is no way that can't turn into business, right?
Impossible for it not to. I love it. I learned something. I learned something from you today. I've never really done that before. I think I have head trash about it. I have noise between my ears telling me, don't be having a call in the middle of the workday when you got a million things on the to-do list. When really it's quite a valuable. I haven't seen the value in a call like that, but now I do.
So who are you going to call tomorrow?
Steve Burton. Oh,
call Steve. I miss Steve. Steve's a rock star.
Steve, Otto.
There's a few guys. You gotta.
I got a list. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I've got a list. Manny from BioResponse.
Give them a call. They miss Sophia. Yeah. I promise you, they miss Sophia.
I'm sure they do.
So, guys,
your network is your network
today. Your network is your net worth, and the only good reason not to pick up the phone regularly and call your buddies and say hello is if you've already got too much money. And I'm reminded what Kate Moss said. You can never be too rich and you can never be too thin. So, I don't know why I was reminded of that. But if you've got too much money, ignore us. Ignore us. And if you've not, pick up the phone. Hey, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Are you crazy? Hit the button, hit subscribe or whatever the equivalent is on the audio. Just follow, hit follow, because it helps our algorithm and it supports us bringing you great inspiration. If you've not signed up for our newsletter, you're a crazy person. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. There's a way of doing that on our website. And until next week, I think Sophia and I will wish you a good week selling. And it's goodbye from Sophia.
Goodbye from Carlos. Thanks, guys.
Take care, folks.